Hello, this is Leftfieldtarot. I have no snappy sort of catch phrase or theme song, but I do have an experimental oracle reading, so I'm not sure what we're going to get as a whole here, but I'm going to dive in and find out. Okay, the first card is Jimi Hendrix. Only losers stay in tune. If you live in a room full of mirrors, all you'll see is yourself. Technology is a tool, but it will never set you free. Jimi Hendrix was an original to beat all originals. He was an artist who transcended boundaries of race and gender, who transcended boundaries of classification. He made his own category, his own niche. He was able to make political statements that were not necessarily packaged as being political. Through his music, he was able to make an expression that was completely unique and which has inspired countless guitarists and other musicians and other human beings just in any walk of life since. He wasn't afraid to experiment. He didn't want to be tied down to a system's idea of how he should be, how his life should be, how his music should be. The fact that he comes out in this reading makes me think that there's something pretty big going on here. So we've got words about being set free, or being free, staying free. We've got words about not worrying about staying in tune. So if you're not worried about staying in tune, that means that you're free to experiment. You're free to try on different notes. You're free to follow the muse wherever it leads you and not have the fear of taking a misstep. Your steps don't have to be perfect. The notes don't have to be perfect. And that's the way that you discover the notes that you want to immortalize, is by being free to sort of run through the field without worrying about where you're stepping. When we're afraid to make mistakes, when there's like a punitive factor attached to that, it freezes people up, especially artists and musicians and writers and anybody who's creative. Not conducive to producing quality work. And so there's a freedom in saying only losers stay in tune. I don't really like saying losers. I don't like calling people winners and losers. But if you live in a room full of mirrors, all you'll see is yourself. I think that is just really, if everything around you is just like you, there's times where it's good to be isolated so that you can have your peace and really find where your true center is, your true north. But if you don't have any sort of a life outside of yourself, you have no life outside of yourself to bring to your work. It's a sad thing to be cut off from that information, that experience of other people, because you want to have your art and music or writing or whatever you're doing, you want that to have meaning. And it's kind of hard for it to have meaning if you're the only one aware of it. A diversity of experience is important to feed the muse, is important to feed the soul of the creative person. Paul Gauguin, go far to go far. Exaggerate the subtle. Share the unseen. Only an outsider sees inward. I want to start with that last one first. Only an outsider sees inward. Being set apart from other people, it does force you to look at deeper meanings. It really forces you to get to know yourself, because that's basically, 24/7. It's you radio. It's the never-ending DJ. Being an outsider isn't always the worst thing. Go far to go far. That's one of those statements that kind of strikes me like, do it to do it. It's, I am. I mean, I get it. I think that what it's referring to is that he used to room with Van Gogh, and then he was married and he had 5 kids, and he left his wife and his kids and moved to the South Seas and painted, and his work blossomed and bloomed. And of course he was sort of like man about the island also, because he was busy picking up young lovers here and there for inspiration. But I'm sure that the whole old line about would you like to come up to my studio and see my etchings was possibly uttered a few times, although anyway. So he literally went far to go far. He traveled from France to the South Seas to expand his vision, expand his experience, and thus expand his work. Exaggerate the subtle, share the unseen. I like that. That's nice. Because often, when you notice the finer details of something, you tend to, or at least I do, I tend to assume that other people do too. Kind of like how you assume when you're a good person that other people are good people. We sort of, I don't know, maybe it's that room full of mirrors situation, but we tend to expect other people to be sort of the same way that we are. And with me, that extends to having an expectation that people see the same subtle details. And that's not the case. It's some people do, some people don't. It depends on the person. So any beauty that you find in those finer details, you need to exaggerate, I suppose. An elevation of an explanation, I guess. The way that the artist brings their experience and their emotions and what they see to the table of whatever their subject is. Those are the things that are the main points. The artist sees what others are not able to see and shares their vision with those other people. And it is through art in that way that we are able to look through each other's eyes and find more common ground with one another, because we get a better understanding of another person's world, another person's point of view. Both of these guys are experimenters. Both of them are rather fearless. And he just sort of, in midlife, turned the car around, or turned it in a totally different direction, so to speak. I mean, it's probably a boat. All right, well, let me see what we've got here from Beyond Lemuria. We've got Reclaim Your Energy, Balanced Forces, Endless Opportunities, Loving Compassion, Vulnerability, and Journey to Wholeness. So I get the feeling that you've probably been feeling drained. Maybe need to sort of fortify yourself. Looks like there's been a transformation. balanced forces and endless opportunities. Is getting the rest and finding your balance. Because there's apparently a nice big plate of future all warm and ready for you. Loving compassion. It's an expansion of your emotional landscape. I think that you're on the precipice of. We have vulnerability here also. And then journey to wholeness, which is number 33, by the way. So if you're seeing that number quite a bit, then there's a little resonance for you. The loving compassion and vulnerability leading into the journey to wholeness. It just seems to be this trajectory of getting rested and balanced and embracing massive potential. And through that, in that, finding the courage to be vulnerable, because the energy around all of this is going to be loving and compassionate. And through this process, this is part of the journey to wholeness, to integration, to mind and body and spirit all aligning and being able to find balance within yourself and also within your environment. The house that we've got is North Node, 10th house, your achievement and public reputation outside family. I think that this is actually happening in a few places, happening in your professional life and happening possibly in your social life, which of course, I mean, professional and social lives, they generally tend to intersect. Mars in Leo is the placement. Has high energy and vitality, quick to act. Will go happily to the head of any pack or group. That goes really, really well with endless opportunities. And there is a sense here of breakthrough. There's a sense here of time to shine. Time to breathe. Time to embrace the new. So for these we have, I don't know which way I should do these, so I guess I'll do it like this. Okay, 4 degrees Scorpio, 5 degrees Scorpio. Goodness. Okay. 24 degrees Gemini. I'm going to scoot everybody over here a little bit. Then we have 23 degrees Gemini, 22 degrees Gemini, would you believe it, 21 degrees Gemini, 20 degrees Gemini, holy moly, and then 29 degrees Virgo. Okay. Let's go back up here to Scorps. 4 degrees Scorpio, a youth holding a lit candle in a devotional ritual. Beginning of spiritual participation in the world's work. Sustained inspiration, conscious linkage to inner realities. 5 degrees Scorpio, a massive rocky shore resists the pounding of the sea. Revelation of absolutely stable elements in all life. Strong confidence. Born of fundamental perception or spiritual inertia. Okay. 24 degrees Gemini, children skating on ice. Capacity to use every opportunity, even in the hardest of environments, for self-recreation or relaxation. Appreciation. 23 degrees Gemini, 3 fledglings in a nest, high in a tree. Conscious self-establishment in the soul and its threefold nature. innate self-confidence, superiority of real being, integration of spirit, soul, and body. Okay, yay. Okay, that's cool. That's a nice little dovetail. 22 degrees Gemini, dancing couples crowd the barn in a harvest festival. Richness of life in associations based on natural instincts. Warmth of simple living. Normal fulfillment of self. The joy of nature's harvest. Joining others in celebration. 21 degrees Gemini, a tumultuous labor demonstration. The impetuous onsurge of natural instincts within the field of the conscious ego. Blind struggle, compelling power of fate, pushing for change. 20 degrees Gemini, cafeteria with an abundance of choices, prodigal distribution of resources, inner wealth, satiation, or discriminative use of natural energies, rich supply. And 29 degrees Virgo, a man gaining secret knowledge from an ancient scroll he is reading. The understanding which is built on patient, steady work and persisting aspiration. Fecundative power of ancient wisdom. So there's a sense of becoming here. There's a sense of also finding, I want to say almost like past life knowledge. Like the knowledge that you carry in your soul that you're sort of unaware of until you start to awaken. The kind of knowledge that it comes out in different periods of your life, but your awareness of it is restricted, and you don't recognize it for being like deep soul knowledge until you reach a certain level of expanded perception. And then you start sort of getting why certain things feel like old hat. The beginning of spiritual participation in the world's work, sustained inspiration, conscious linkage to inner realities. That definitely says becoming to me. That there's an expansion of who you are on an entirely comprehensive level. And revelation of absolutely stable elements in all life. Like, I feel like you're getting a sense of the strength within yourself and the strength within certain things in life that maybe you weren't able to perceive or appreciate before, that provide a sense of security. Like, and what I mean by that is there's traditional markers of security that everybody, when you say security, people will say, a home, a relationship, a car, blah, 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 And then there's another kind of security. And not everybody perceives it, not everybody believes in it. But it's the sort of security that you feel when you begin to really connect with your inner guidance. There's a really strong sense that no matter what, ultimately everything will be okay. And, whether people want to quibble on that particular fine point or not, embracing that sense and allowing it into your life only does you good. It's not a foolhardiness, but it's a support. Connecting with spirituality and connecting with the true core of yourself and appreciating how very resilient you are. Capacity to use every opportunity, even in the hardest of environments. That really speaks to a lot of difficulties. Well, in fact, it says skating over difficulties. There we go. Finding creative and playful solutions. Creative and playful solutions. That's beautiful. So, like, really an expansion of that feeling of loving compassion already. 3 fledglings. That's such an awkward word. No, I just have an awkward mouth. 3 fledglings in a nest, high in a tree. Conscious self-establishment in the soul and its threefold nature. Innate self-confidence, superiority of real being, the authenticity that you are embracing, fortifying your confidence, making your resilience even stronger. And I mean, Mars and Leo, this card, speaking of high energy, vitality, happily at the head of the group. I mean, it feels like there are great things queued up for you. Richness of life in associations based on natural instincts. The warmth of simple living. I feel like simple is not complicated, not full of static. It doesn't mean sparse. It doesn't mean minimalist. It means living that doesn't pigpen everything else. You know, living that doesn't take over every other bit of energy. Living that is a support, like, you know, that's aligned. Richness of life and association based on natural instincts. So the things in your life, the things, people, places, things, what have you, endeavors, all being in alignment, all being balanced, and completely like gelling with the authenticity of you, like your real desires, your real wishes, your real dreams, your real goals, the things that really matter to you. Impetuous, on surge of natural instincts within the field of the conscious ego. So again, it's like complete embracing of who you truly are. And doing that, it looks like is going to open up everything to you. A cafeteria with an abundance of choices, overwhelming alternatives, having one's hungers satisfied, and the understanding which is built on patient, steady work and persisting aspiration. So this is something that you've been building up to for a while. No matter if what you've been doing is aligned with this current flow or not, which I feel like there's probably quite a bit of transition that's been going on here. Sorry, I'm just like messing everything up, but so no matter what the energy is in the past that you've inhabited, it's all been part of building up this beautiful blossoming. It's all been part of feeding the tree, to riff off of the band Belly for a second. Let's see what the random cards are. Impetus, okay. And excitement. Reason to like get up in the morning or in the afternoon or whenever, because you're going by your circadian rhythm, not anybody else's. Impetus. The desire, the drive, the motivation, the fire. And excitement, the same thing. I just heard everything's coming up roses. Nice. Okay. Zombie wasp. Okay. The zombie wasp is a particular kind of wasp that preys on cockroaches. Possibly other insects, I don't know. I didn't look that far into it, but it finds a cockroach that it wants to prey on. And it approaches that roach, and it injects that roach with a drug that it produces. The roach gets really self-involved and happy and starts grooming itself incessantly. And that is all it can focus on, is grooming itself. And then the zombie wasp takes that opportunity to lay its eggs in the roach's head. Certain people can embody sort of the quality of a zombie wasp. Like, the drug is love bombing and playing to your ego, focused on this idealized image that they throw at you. It's the glitter that gets stuck in your eye. And then when they've got you, drunk on flattery, they use you for their own benefit. You might have gone through something like that, or it might just be a good cautionary tale, especially with all these opportunities and everything this journey that you've been through to reach this place of embracing yourself. Perhaps it's just a message to say, watch out if people really come on strong with the flattery, because they may not have your best interests at heart. I mean, they may, but you can tell, if you are apprised of the need to look out for that sort of thing beforehand, let's say, you can tell. Because if you could tell all the time, then it wouldn't be something that I'm sitting here telling you about, right? I mean, we all have our moments of having blinders on, and that's part of being human. My Hyperion. So this is a reference to a poem by John Keats, an unfinished poem about the clash of the Titans, the battle between the Titans and the Olympians. And specifically a reference to the part of it where the scene changes and Apollo, the god of music, civilization, and culture, is on the beach weeping. And he's weeping because he is not able to reach his divine potential. He's aware of his divine potential, but he is not able to embody his divine potential. And then Mnemosyne, the goddess of memory, comes over to him and looks deeply into his eyes. And in so doing, she helps Apollo to remember himself. And once he remembers himself, then he is able to embrace and embody his divine potential, because the power to do that was in him all along. He just needed a little help in remembering how to get there. And we have transmission. Well, this could be a couple of different things. This could be the transmission in a car being like an essential part of what moves the car. If the transmission isn't right, then your car is not going to function. And I think that's sort of like there's a correlation with that and like the heart or the authentic self, maybe. Like, when I say the heart, I mean like the home within us, our sense of home, our sense of who we truly are, what you feel in your heart. It's not the biggest part of your body, it's not the biggest part of your world, although it kind of is. But it can also be, oh wow, okay. I was thinking it could also be like radio signals or like transmission in that way, or like emails or communications. And I just remembered that I had read that John Keats started the poem Hyperion in 1818. And coincidentally, maybe not, transmission, there is currently a radio signal coming to Earth from space that I read about. This is like a couple of months ago. And it is beamed out at in intervals of 18 minutes and 18 seconds. So the poem Hyperion was started in 1818, and there are currently radio signals being beamed out 18 minutes and 18 seconds apart from space to Earth. So you might want to look up 1818 as an angel number. It seems significant. Art is not what you see, but what you make others see. That's beautiful. That aligns with what we were talking about earlier, with bringing your experience of a subject to others. What you make others see. Exaggerating the subtle. Intuition is the superlogic that cuts out all the routine processes of thought and leaps straight from the problem to the answer. That kind of, I can't add to that. The ability to simplify means to eliminate the unnecessary so that the necessary may speak. Aligning what's on the outside with what the inside desires, so that there's not that fragmentation, there's not that schism, there's simpatico. And again, the simplification thing, the enjoying simple life, was on one of these cards here, and that's truly what it is. Simplifying isn't minimalizing. It's eliminating the dross. It's cutting away what doesn't need to be there, so that what does need to be there may speak, may breathe, may exist, and fill up the room with its energy, instead of having its energy oppressed. I wish I could have ended it with a better word than oppressed, though. I mean, ugh. Let's pull one more creativity card. Just for a nice final quote, so I can leave a good taste in your mouth here, because this is a really beautiful reading. You've got a fantastic future ahead of you. Oh, here we go. Just flipped right over. You can't try to do things. You must simply do things. Ray Bradbury. So, I think that's a pretty clear message. Full speed ahead. Yoda. There is no try. There is only do. So do it. Go for it. Whatever this is, whatever these amazing, endless opportunities are. You definitely, it involves being balanced. It involves being able to embrace who you are. And it involves being in a realm of loving compassion. Being able to be whole. And yeah, there's vulnerability in there. But, okay, the card's vulnerability. But what's on there but this gigantic, dragon serpent thingy? And so, maybe that dragon serpent thingy is vulnerable, but I don't think he's going to get messed with. And especially because he's got crystals around him and lotus flowers, and that looks like a butterfly, but my eyes are kind of bad. Yes, there's vulnerability, but you're up for the task. You are up for the task, absolutely. So, okay, there's a high note then. From Ray Bradbury and Yoda. No try. Just do. You can do it. You can definitely do it. I mean, this is all screaming about how you can do it. The head of the pack. All right, rock on. Thank you for joining me. I hope that this resonated and wasn't too long-winded. So, love and light. Take care.